Episode 57, Lies in Print, Smith and the Times and Seasons Polygamy Cover-Up. Welcome to the Hidden and Distorted History of the Church series, where we will be looking at the historical aspects of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, also known as the Mormons. In this series, I will try and inform those unaware of the true facts of Mormon history. Recap. Last week, we dived into Joseph Smith's frantic attempts to dodge extradition to Missouri. While hiding out, he secretly married Sarah Ann Whitney and writes incriminating letters to her. Joseph leverages Nauvoo's legal system to stay a step ahead of the law, while John C. Bennett exposes Smith's growing polygamy scandal, while Orson Pratt pays the price for refusing to fall in line. Meanwhile, Joseph takes to the press, publicly denouncing polygamy, while privately adding more wives to his collection. This week, we expose Joseph Smith's desperate attempts to cover up his secret polygamy scandal using the Times and Seasons newspaper as his personal propaganda machine. As the pressure mounts, he manipulates the Nauvoo City Council to reassure Governor Carlin that he's done nothing wrong, all while secretly deeding property to Sarah Ann Whitney to shield his assets. Meanwhile, U.S. Attorney Justin Butterfield arrives in Nauvoo to investigate explosive claims made by whistleblower John C. Bennett. With the law closing in, Smith remains on the run until he's finally forced to surrender. This is an episode you don't want to miss. Part 1. A September to Remember. On September 1st, 1842, Joseph Smith used his power as editor of Times and Seasons to brazenly lie to the public, flat out denying polygamy with a masterful act of deception. He dismissed the accusations against him as false and as absurd as any anti-Mormon attack. But he didn't stop there. He doubled down, publishing an official declaration. We declare that we believe that one man should have one wife, and one woman but one husband. A calculated move designed to manipulate his followers into believing polygamy was nothing more than a baseless smear. Yet by this point, Smith had already secretly married at least 13 women, some of whom, like Louisa Beaman and Zena Huntington, were already legally married to other men. His denials weren't just misleading. They were a carefully orchestrated smokescreen, shielding him from scrutiny while he continued expanding his secret empire of wives. This wasn't an unfortunate slip or an innocent misunderstanding. It was a deliberate, systematic fraud designed to maintain control. Why did he lie? Because the truth would have been catastrophic. Whistleblowers like John C. Bennett were already exposing his secret marriages, and if Smith had admitted the truth, he faced legal consequences, public outrage, and the collapse of his authority in Nauvoo. Instead, he played the victim, weaponizing deception to gaslight his followers into defending him, even as insiders knew exactly what was happening. To further reinforce this illusion, Smith quoted Doctrine and Covenants section 201, 1835 editions and seasons, cynically using church scripture to back up his false claims. Inasmuch as this church has been reproached with the crime of fornication and polygamy, we declare that we believe that one man should have one wife, and one woman but one husband. Times and Seasons, Vol. 3, number 21. Smith didn't just deny polygamy. He weaponized doctrine to cover his tracks, leading his followers into blind obedience while he rewrote the rules in secret. And it worked. His lies bought him time, influence, and unchecked power, until his death exposed the truth he had fought so hard to bury. Days later, Joseph Smith was forced into damage control. John C. Bennett, once his trusted ally, had turned against him, publicly exposing his secret plural marriages. The accusations weren't just a nuisance. They threatened Smith's authority and could lead to legal consequences. With his back against the wall, he scrambled to control the narrative and shield himself from the fallout. One of his most calculated moves? Weaponizing the Nauvoo City Council to assure Illinois Governor Thomas Carlin that he had violated no law, a blatant lie. Smith was actively practicing polygamy, a direct violation of Illinois' anti-bigamy laws. But instead of admitting guilt, he leaned on his hand-picked leadership to manufacture an official statement of innocence, hoping to manipulate Carlin into backing off. This wasn't just about polygamy. Carlin had already issued an arrest warrant for Smith in connection with the attempted assassination of Missouri Governor Lilburn Boggs. With Bennett fueling the fire of public accusations, Smith knew he was in dangerous territory. If Carlin pursued charges, it could mean the collapse of his empire. So he played the game masterfully, using Nauvoo's political machinery to feign innocence, deflect legal threats, and maintain his grip on power. On September 6, 1842, Joseph Smith quietly transferred a plot of land, Lot 2, Block 139, to Sarah Ann Whitney, his 17-year-old plural wife, whom he had secretly married just weeks earlier on July 27. This wasn't just a routine property exchange. It was a strategic move made during one of the most precarious times in his life. At this point, Smith was actively evading arrest, wanted in connection with the attempted assassination of former Missouri Governor Lilburn W. Boggs. At the same time, the practice of polygamy remained shrouded in secrecy, with Smith publicly denying it even as he expanded his network of plural wives. The land in question sat just a block away from the mansion house, Smith's primary residence, raising serious questions about his motivations. Was this an act of financial security for Sarah Ann, a calculated effort to keep his secret wives close, or yet another example of Smith using church resources to maintain control over his growing web of plural marriages? Regardless of the intent, the timing and nature of this transaction reinforce a familiar pattern: deception, secrecy, and the careful manipulation of power. In September 1842, U.S. Attorney Justin Butterfield traveled to Nauvoo to investigate claims made by John C. Bennett. One of Bennett's key accusations was that Smith had been improperly transferring property to avoid paying creditors. As we discussed in previous episodes, John C. Bennett had published a series of exposés in which he accused Smith of financial misdealings, polygamy, and abuse of power. Among his claims, he alleged that Smith was shifting property ownership to trusted associates to shield assets from legal claims. The Nauvoo Charter, granted by the Illinois State Legislature in 1840, gave Nauvoo's municipal government extraordinary legal powers, including the ability to issue writs of habeas corpus. This allowed Smith to avoid extradition attempts and made it difficult for external authorities to enforce legal claims against him. At the time, Smith was under significant financial strain, partially due to debts from land speculation and the collapse of the Kirtland Safety Society. By 1842, lawsuits and unpaid debts were mounting, leading to increased scrutiny. Butterfield reviewed property transactions in Nauvoo and confirmed irregularities that appeared to support Bennett's claims. Specifically, he found evidence suggesting that Smith was deeding property to family members and trusted followers to put assets out of reach from creditors. This tactic was not uncommon among financially troubled leaders, but in Smith's case, it added to growing concerns over his financial and political influence in Nauvoo. Butterfield's confirmation of fraudulent property transfers was one of several issues fueling opposition to Smith and the Nauvoo leadership, both within Illinois and beyond. Part 2. October's Exposures. On October 1, 1842, Joseph Smith's petition for bankruptcy was denied on multiple grounds, including 1. Wrongful conveyances, transferring property improperly to avoid creditors. 2. Preferential transfers, illegally favoring certain creditors over others. 3. Concealment of assets, hiding property to evade financial responsibility. 4. Omissions from inventory, failing to fully disclose his assets in the bankruptcy filing. This rejection was a major financial setback for Smith. Given the mounting debts and legal pressure, he had been trying to use the 1841 federal bankruptcy law to clear his obligations, but his manipulations of property transfers led to a clear ruling against him. This denial reinforced accusations that Smith was engaged in financial fraud and mismanagement. His financial dealings, combined with accusations of polygamy and his attempts to evade arrest, fueled growing opposition to him in Illinois. Faced with increasing public suspicion about secret polygamous marriages, Smith orchestrated a mass public denial of polygamy in the church's newspaper, Times and Seasons. The October 1, 1842 edition included a statement signed by 31 prominent members of the Relief Society, including Emma Smith, Joseph's wife and Relief Society president, Emma's counselors, several women who were secretly married to Smith at the time. The statement reads, "We, the undersigned members of the Ladies' Relief Society, and married females, do certify and declare that we know of no system of marriage being practiced in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, save the one contained in the Book of D&C. At the time, Section 1014, now removed from the Doctrine and Covenants, explicitly forbade polygamy, stating, "Inasmuch as this Church of Christ has been reproached with the crime of fornication and polygamy, we declare that we believe that one man should have one wife, and one woman but one husband, except in case of death, when either is at liberty to marry again." This denial of polygamy would later haunt the Church, as evidence of Smith's secret plural marriages became undeniable. When polygamy was formally introduced under Brigham Young, the earlier denials were exposed as false, leading to significant controversy over Smith's credibility. Part 3. Surrender in December. December 27, 1842, marks a pivotal moment in Joseph Smith's legal battles, but it's a moment steeped in manipulation and political scheming. After spending most of the year in hiding to dodge arrest for crimes tied to Missouri, Smith saw an opening. With Illinois' political hostility toward Missouri and his grip on local influential figures, including the newly appointed Governor Thomas Ford, Smith made his move, surrendering to Illinois authorities to challenge Missouri's extradition order. For most of 1842, Smith had relied on Nauvoo's leadership to protect him, but by December, he had a powerful card to play. Ford, unlike his predecessor Carlin, was more than willing to cozy up to Smith, especially after he secured a promise from Smith that the Mormon voting bloc would back him in the next election. Ford's sympathetic stance was nothing but a calculated political move. Smith appeared before Judge Nathaniel Pope in Springfield, Illinois, to face Missouri's extradition attempt. Pope ruled in Smith's favor, citing that Smith had left Missouri under a formal truce in 1838, so he could not be considered a fugitive. On the surface, this might sound like a legal win for Smith, but the reality is much darker. Joseph Smith didn't win this legal battle on the strength of innocence or legality. He won because he played the political game like a seasoned manipulator. By promising Ford the Mormon vote, Smith secured political protection, and Ford, eager for those votes, ensured that Smith would never face trial for charges stemming from the attempted assassination of Governor Boggs. Here's the truth. Smith didn't need to be in Missouri when the assassination attempt occurred for Missouri to have every right to extradite him. If he ordered it, Missouri had the legal authority to demand his return. But the truth didn't matter. This wasn't about justice. It was about protecting political interests. Ford's decision to block Smith's extradition was based on votes, not on Smith's supposed innocence. This was nothing but a sordid, backroom deal between a corrupt political machine and a man willing to use whatever means necessary to avoid the law. After months of lying, running from the law, and evading justice, Joseph Smith was now on the edge, about to push his luck even further as the year 1843 began. Please watch for future videos, and thank you so kindly for watching. This is the Ex-Mormon Informant signing off for the day.